the Sonos Arc soundbar versus the Sonos Beam Gen 2 and Sonos Sub Mini bundle. £21 difference in the RRP, but which is the better purchase? Let's find out. Hey guys, Louis here, and a quick disclaimer before we dive in that while the RRPs stand at $899 and $878 respectively, you'll likely find these at different prices online depending on deals and things like that. So make sure you check the links in the description below for the current prices. So, the release of the Sonos Sub Mini in October 2022 has rocked the boat a little bit and opened up more of a debate between which Sonos soundbar setup offers the most bang for your buck. Now, we decided to make this video firstly because, well, you guys have asked for it, but secondly because there are a few things that could help you make the right decision for you and get the most for your money. Now, if you're more torn between the Arc and the Beam Gen 2, then check out our comparison video right here. As always, if you like what we do and you're into Sonos, then be sure to subscribe and follow. And if you want to support us, then head over to smarthomesounds.co.uk. So let's kick off with the need to knows. The Sonos Arc is Sonos's most premium soundbar to date, launched back in mid-2020, I think. So it's a couple of years old, but still young in the Sonos life cycle. It's a Dolby Atmos soundbar, so you've got upwards and sideways firing drivers to provide a more immersive Atmos effect to give you that feeling of sound coming from all around you. It's clearly a lot wider than the Sonos Beam, and that helps it to deliver a wide soundstage, which is again further enhanced with those sideways drivers. The Beam Gen 2 is a more recent release, launched in October 2021 and replacing the popular Sonos Beam, now Gen 1. This updated design also introduced Dolby Atmos support through its virtual surround sound, as there are no dedicated upwards firing drivers. This Gen 2 is probably our favourite Sonos product to date, though I won't let that cloud my judgment for this video, but for a £450 soundbar, this Beam pushes closer to the Arc than the price gap suggests. Finally, the new Sub Mini is Sonos' second subwoofer in their range, offering a more compact size than the Sub Gen 3, but has also really impressed us with the bass performance. It brings a fresh design and is a more affordable solution for adding bass to your Sonos soundbar or a compatible Sonos speaker. But which is the better setup? A single Sonos Arc soundbar or the more compact Sonos Beam Gen 2 with the addition of the Sub Mini? Well, it's a simple answer. Neither. There is no one answer to that question, as it depends on a lot of other factors. So let's dive in. First things first, you need to consider the size and layout of your room. As a very general rule of thumb, the Arc is recommended for larger, more open plan spaces where you want to fill a bigger area with sound, and the Beam and Sub combo is usually the route to go for a small to medium sized space. However, there are a few caveats. For example, when we've been testing these setups out in our larger, more open plan showroom, the Beam and Sub Mini did perform really well for the seating position you'd be in to watch a movie or TV. It was only when you moved back to the outer parts of the room where you lost that impact. So again, it will depend on what experience you want. One important thing I also noticed in testing was that when you moved away from sitting directly in front of the Beam and sat more off-axis, the level of immersion did drop off a bit. But I'll come back to the sound performances in a bit. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because one thing that's often forgotten about is the TV size and the practicality of a setup within your space. For example, if you have a 48-inch TV or even smaller, then a Sonos Arc underneath is going to look a little bit odd. On the other end of the scale, if you've got a 75-inch TV, then a Beam will not only look pretty small underneath, but it will also struggle to provide the wider soundstage you'd want to match with the visuals. Also, weigh up where you'll be placing your soundbar. Will you be wall mounting it? And if so, is there space on your wall for the Arc? Are you going to place it on a TV stand? Is the stand wide enough to accommodate a wider soundbar? All things you need to keep in mind as you're weighing up your options. So while sound performance is obviously a huge part of the buying process, the real-life practicality of a setup in your space shouldn't be overlooked and will most likely impact your decision. But as I'm sure you'll want to know, what is the difference when it comes to sound performance? Well, we've tested these out in a variety of different spaces, including our largest showroom, as I mentioned, our smaller Sonos lounge and our filming studio, and have tested lots of movies, TV shows and music to see what differences we could pick up. There's no denying that the Sonos Arc offers a wider soundstage and more room-filling performance. The Beam offers a good soundstage, and under our 55-inch TV, the performance does go beyond the screen. However, it can't compete with the physics of the Arc, and so for a room where your seating is more spread out, or you're really looking for an expansive soundstage, then the Arc is the better option. In terms of Atmos effects, the Arc is always going to outperform the Beam with the dedicated drivers compared with virtual ones, but I think the Beam does a decent job, and the added layer of the Sub Mini also brings more immersion when you're watching a movie, for example. We tested these out with the new Top Gun movie, and the explosions and action sequences were really immersive with both setups. So, usual disclaimer as always, guys, what we hear here in the studio is going to be slightly different to what you guys hear over YouTube, and these sound tests are purely just to give you a little example or taster of what these sound differences are between the different Sonos products. So the setup, we've got the Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer. We use that because you've got vocals, you've got explosions, there's a little bit of music, so it's got a good variety of sound basically. So we've got the binaural mic setup, and we're going to play through the sound test now. Let us know down in the comments, which setup do you prefer the sound of?
I have a plan. Oh yeah? What is it?
Here we go again, huh? Here we go again, huh?
Hopefully that sound test gave you guys a bit of a flavour. I will just highlight that with this comparison, Atmos effects and how wide this soundstage is will have been hard to get across to you guys watching on YouTube, but we wanted to include a small demo as I know some people like to hear what I'm explaining to you. There were a few nuances picked up in the overhead performance of the Arc, but on the whole, the vocals and bass performance were great from both. For us, the upgraded Beam Gen 2 has really stepped up to the Sonos Arc in terms of vocal performance, and the center channel performance is one of our favorite things about the Beam. Now, when you add a Sub Mini, it actually takes the load of the lower frequencies, which means the Beam can focus more on the other arrays, and we have noticed the difference in performance when toggling the sub on and off. I personally would be more than happy with either of these setups, and I think it's in the other factors to consider that you'll be able to work out which is a better option for you. One thing I will say is that you do have the option of enjoying the Arc at a more scaled back performance, giving you the flexibility to step up to it if over time you move to a bigger house, for example. Now you might be wondering whether adding the Sonos Sub Mini is worth it with the Sonos Arc, and that's a slightly different video, but we do cover our results from that pairing in our Sub Mini review if you want to explore that in a little bit more depth. Now, broadly speaking, the Sonos Sub Gen 3 is going to be a better match for the Arc, but in some cases, the Mini might be a good option and save you some money, so do check out that video for more on that. Back to these setups then. For me, part of the decision process should also factor in your budget. And I'm not talking about your budget right now, as they are both similarly priced, but your longer term budget. Are you going to want to spend more in the future on your setup? Do you want to upgrade and add more over time? Or are you looking to make your purchase now and cap it at that? No more spending on home audio once you've bought this. For me, you might want to add a sub to the Arc over time to maximize performance, and also add rears too for enhanced surround audio. If you went for the Sub Gen 3 and two 1SL rears, then that bundled will take you to a little over $2,000 RRP. But if you did decide to add rears to your Beam and Sub Mini bundle, then you're looking at a further £350-ish, taking you to around £1,200 all in. Now, I know that some of you will want a black and white answer. Should you buy the Beam and Sub Mini, or should you just go for the Arc? And truthfully, I'm going to really struggle without speaking to every single one of you individually about yourself, your home, your plans for the future, and so on. So I've got 3 scenarios and what I would recommend for each to hopefully help you out. Scenario 1, meet Ben. Ben lives in a 3-bed house with what he would call a medium-sized living room. He watches a lot of Netflix, likes a good movie, and also listens to music regularly at home. He's not really planning on moving to a much bigger space. He's got a budget of around about £1,000, and while he wants a good setup, isn't looking for something to invest in more down the road. He wants a setup that's going to make movie night more immersive and be a big step up from his TV speakers. He's going to buy the Beam Gen 2 and Sonos Sub Mini. Great work, Ben. Scenario 2. Meet Sophie and Alex. They've just bought their first house together. They've got a 65-inch TV and they've got a medium-sized living room too. They're probably going to move in a few years and they dream of having a larger, open-plan space. They've only got a budget of around about £1,000 right now, but they both love movie night and hosting parties, so they're happy to keep investing in their system over time when they can afford to add to it. They're going to go for the Sonos Arc. They want to make sure that they don't need to upgrade their soundbar in a few years to match their bigger home. They're doing very well for themselves, Sophie and Alex. Finally, scenario 3. Meet John. He's pretty serious about his audio. He likes the best of the best and he's got the money to go for it. He knows he's going to invest more into his setup over time, but he also wants to make sure he's getting a premium experience, a premium setup, and doesn't mind spending more to get it. It's a no-brainer for John. He's gone for the Arc. Get in there, John. Proud of you. A massive thank you to my glamorous assistants there. Now, in all seriousness, guys, obviously that was a little bit of fun, but hopefully those different scenarios have given you some key indicators to go off. So, are you more like Ben, Sophie and Alex, or like John? Let me know. And of course, there's a lot more scenarios and factors to consider, but hopefully that's given you a starting point to work from. For me, the Beam and Sub Mini is a pretty killer combination and will be a fantastic setup for a lot of people's homes, and it's a setup that I've gone for in my home. But for some of you, the Johns, the Sophie and Alexes out there, the Arc might be the better solution for you. So if we've helped you get closer to your decision, then subscribe for more videos like this, and of course, for more Sonos content. If you can, why not pop into our showroom and have a listen to these setups for yourself. If we're too far away, then we do offer a 30-day returns policy, so if you're on the fence, why not try it out at home? Comment down below which setup you think is right for you and why. I'm sure it'll help those in the community who are still a little bit unsure about what to go for. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next video.